Okay, so I guess yesterday we were talking a lot about the patriarchy and so on, but apart from that, we also discuss about different problems which exist with respect to reproductive health. We try to understand what reproductive health is in general, its importance, and so on, and the strategies that are being done by the different government as well as non-government organizations to tackle these problems um, in the reproductive health sector. Now, we will move on to one of the problem that still exists, and that is like population explosion. Now, what does this population explosion mean? Is the tremendous increase in size and growth rate of the population. It's not just increase in number, but the growth rate, that is the number of newborn babies, is also increasing constantly, and that is what leads to the population explosion. And of course, there are various reasons. uh, can it occurs due to increased health facility? Now you might wonder how a development in the health facility will affect, but ultimately that leads to the better infrastructure in the health sector, so ultimately better survival rates, better living conditions, and so on. So obviously the number of individuals, they are increasing. Now, there are various other reasons. Decrease in death rate. Again, this is directly linked to the better healthcare treatment. So, people are living longer, they have better treatment available, and so on. So, that is one of the reasons. Longer lifespan. I guess in 2001, no, not 2001, 1901, the lifespan, the average lifespan of the individual was 34. Means again, I have read this somewhere. I don't know the actual facts, but let's assume even if it was around 40 or 50 years of the age, and now it is 65 years of the age. That is the average lifespan of an individual. So that increases the duration of the stay of an individual on this place or on this earth longer. So during that, the number of people or individuals, they are at that particular time point is anyway going to be more than how it was earlier. So that is longer lifespan. Declined maternity mortality rate, again because of the better infra structure in the health sector. The rate at which the mothers or the birth giving mothers, they are surviving these days, that is one of the additional reason. Now all of these factors, they are related, but that does not mean they are harmful. Yeah, it just stating these are the reasons which are leading to the increase in number of people on this earth. Then decreased infant mortality rate, again it's related to the previous one. Increase in number of people in reproductive age. Now you might be aware that number of young adults at this moment in most of the countries is quite high, and because of that, obviously, and that falls in the reproductive age. So the number of people or number of children being reproduced is also going to be higher. Advancement in agriculture. Earlier there were so many scarcities, either water or food and so on. Nowadays, because of this advancement in the agriculture sector, there is no such scarcity as such. So that's why this is adding to the population explosion. Lack of education, again this goes back to that family planning, because people can just produce the number of babies without being aware whether like, is it really required to have a child, or if it is required to have a child, then how many can we have? Also because of the contraception methods. So that is general lack of reproductive education. So people are having many babies, and that's again adding to the increase in population. Poor access to the contraceptives and religious belief. Again, like I said earlier, uh, this is the same thing which is adding to the lack of education. So ultimately there is increase in population. Now I don't want to say this against any religion, but in Islam it is being said that use of contraceptives is not allowed. and also the religious belief there stays like they can have any number of children. Now it's not only in Islam as such, it did exist earlier in different religions, but now it is still more prevalent in the Islam as a religion. So and you will find many Islamic countries banning this contraceptives and so on. So that still exists these days, which is ultimately leading to the population explosion. And just to give you the basic idea, according to the 2001 census report, which is still very old report, the population growth was around 1.7%. That means every year there will be 70 new individuals will be added per thousand. So let's say if it was uh, like within a year the number of people were growing uh, uh, 900, next year it will be 917 per thousand. So that's just the addition of 17 by each year, and again it might be increasing every year. That was the rate was back in 2001, and by this rate the population could double in 33 years. That is from next, like let's say in 2033 or so, or at the max 2035, we'll have double the population than the current which is existent. So again, this is just the basics of population explosion. You can write so many things on this, like using different terminologies. Now what are the consequences? Again, you are very much aware of these things. Will can lead to food scarcity, because if there is even though the agriculture is expanding, it may or may not be able to satisfy the needs of all the population. So it can lead to the scarcity of the food. Pressure on the land, that is demand for food is increasing. So obviously more agriculture, that means more pesticides and more insecticides are being used, or more fertilizers are being used. So that is like increased pressure on the land. Industries, clothing, housing, these all things are like increased due to the demand to supply that increased population. Natural resources are being utilized to more extent, so obviously they are getting depleted. Eco degradation increases pollution, sanitation, deforestation. I hope I don't have to explain all this because I assume you would know it. Slums are increasing because again decreased housing facilities will cause increase in the slum areas. Unemployment, standard of living is reducing, and the energy crisis is happening either through a climate change or through the like overconsumption of the natural resources and so on. So all these problems will persist due to the overpopulation. Now, just few terminologies. Like I'm not sure if you are aware of this, but the scientific study of population, it's called as demography, and we usually refer to this term, especially during this pandemic. We have so many times we have used this term demographics of this particular area, or demographics of a particular country and so on. That is nothing but the various characteristics which are related to the population that is being studied in demography, which includes like population size, the composition of population, distribution within the space of a country or of a continent and so on. So these are nothing but the demography, and that study is called as demography. And census, you might have heard this term, that is the official counting of the population and preparing the data based on the age group, birth, death rate, sex ratio, and education and so on. So that is the census, which happens ideally every 10 years in India, that is 2001, 2011, 2021. That's how it happens, and it goes on sometimes like 1 or 2 years based on the like there are, because there are quite many people in India. So to take all that data, it takes certain time. Uh, so that is the census. And methods to prevent this overpopulation. So what we saw was what are the reasons for overpopulation, what are the consequences, what it can lead to, and now we are going to see how can we stop it, that overpopulation. Obviously, birth control that is the regulation of conception by preventive measures or devices to limit the number of children, right? If we reduce the number of children, that will ultimately reduce the overpopulation, and that is what is known as birth control. Family planning, again, it is something similar to birth control, that is program aimed at limiting the size of the family. Say, let's say, hum do hamare do was the famous nara or the slogan that was used quite a while ago in India, that like two parents and their two children, maximum two children, and that's what is the part of the family planning. And also by spacing the birth of the children. Now, how the spacing will add? Let's say usually parents have alternate year children, right? If we increase that gap, the number of individuals during that particular year will be different, right? So let's say there are a million people giving birth in a particular year, and if they space it out, their children, the number of individuals which are taking birth in that particular year will reduce drastically. So that is one of the way to prevent overpopulation. And contraception, like a temporary or permanent measure to prevent the pregnancy, that is the contraception. So these are the three major ways. Now we are going to look into details of what is this contraception and what are the different methods that are being used for contraception. Are there any questions until here? Okay, so then moving forward, so in general, there are quite a few techniques uh, in the contraception as such. We'll go one by one. So natural methods. Now, one of the type is natural methods. Now, there are again three subtypes or three different methods in which the contraception can happen. That is safe period, or also called as rhythm method. Now, we already know on the 14th day of the menstrual cycle, there is the ovulation going to happen. And if that couple avoids having sexual intercourse before and after, like let's say from 13th to 15th or 16th day, then the chance of having baby is less. But again, I am saying the chance is less. That does not mean it will be completely successful, because sometimes this ovum might be released at the end of 14th day, right? Then from that day to next 15th day end, the ovum has the good fertility rate, and then it goes on decreasing after 24 hours after its release. Same is the case with the sperm. So that way, if the couple avoids the sex or sexual intercourse during around the ovulation day, that particular period is called as safe period or rhythm method of the contraception, and it can avoid the pregnancy. But this is again all the natural methods that we are going to talk here. They are not sure shot methods. That means it does not guarantee that the pregnancy will be avoided for sure. So that is one of the drawback of this. uh, the second method is withdrawal method, or what is also called as coitus interruption. Coitus is again a term for sexual intercourse or copulation. So during the sexual intercourse, if male withdraws the penis before the ejaculation happens, that is what is known as withdrawal method. And again, this method is again not a complete true method which will give guarantee of that conception will not happen. And the reason being, seminal fluid which is being released at the start to lubricate the penis, that also has some of the sperm particle, because ultimately it is coming through epididymis structure, and obviously there will be some sperms which will be left or which will be inseminated into the vaginal tract. And that is why this method is again not a completely like gives complete guarantee of no conception. So that is withdrawal method, or also called as coitus interruption. You are interrupting the sexual intercourse, that is what is coitus interruption. Then the third method in as a part of natural method is lactational amenorrhea. Now this is a kind of imaginatory, I can say. So it is like just after the parturition, that is the childbirth, just after the birth of the child, there is absence of menstruation for a while. For a while is like as in it does not start always in the first month after the birth. It takes a while because there are hormonal changes. So it starts slowly, slowly, slowly again, and it might resume in the second or third month after the pregnancy. So that is what is, there is absence of menstruation, and that particular phase is called as amenorrhea, when there is absence of menstruation. And when it is because of the lactation phase, due to the intense lactation and the breastfeeding of the child, fully prevent the conception. Now fully prevent the conception means, now you can simply imagine in a way, like if the mother is always feeding the baby, there is no time for the couple to have the sexual intercourse, and that is the lactational amenorrhea. So that is when I said it is like kind of imaginary, and that does not really hold true. So that is the lactational amenorrhea, and because of this, the sexual intercourse or the conception ultimately will be avoided, and it is effective only for 6 months after parturition. After that, of course, the couple goes back to their regular course of action. So that is the lactational amenorrhea, but which is again, like I said, all these methods, they are not the sure shot methods that will give guarantee of no conception. The conception or
So,
the pregnancy might happen there. Yes.
but safe period and the last one, like, why aren't they like surefire?
Sorry.
So, like the safe period method, like if you avoid those couple of days,
Hmm?
then like there's no chance that the baby will form, right?
In the first safe period method or rhythm method.
Uh, yes.
So now what you are assuming is the menstruation cycle is 28 days always. That is not the case. Secondly, you cannot really, like rarely people know which is the 14th day, right? So that in that case also, then this will go for a toss. Third
But
case,
aren't there some signs
and there's
that
some
signs like signals that like signs like body shows some reaction? Because
on 14th day the temperature is little bit higher, but then
yeah, like
that is again not really being felt by every woman body, right? So like you can simply imagine, amongst few of us, someone already have higher body temperature compared to the other person. Now
so
that
you're saying that people won't be able to figure out when is their 14th day.
correct, and that is why this method is not really a good method of uh, avoiding the pregnancy.
Okay, okay.
And also sometimes what happens is due to hormonal changes or due to the some of the medication, the menstrual cycle like shifts a bit. Either it happens for a elongated period, like instead of 28 days, let's say it happens after 32 days or so, right? So in that whole month, then you don't know which day will you calculate, because your whole cycle has been elongated by 4 days. So now you imagine which will be your 14th day in that case of 32 days. Will it happen on 14th day, or will it happen on 18th day, or will it happen in between? Then this method doesn't remain the same, like how it should have been already. So the assumption there is the menstrual cycle is always 28 days, which is not true. It happens more or less in a very healthy individual, approximately 28 days or 29 days. But otherwise, because of the lifestyle, because of the various stresses, or because of certain medication, these menses, they keep on changing sometimes. Okay, so then the second method that we are going to talk about is the barrier methods. Now again, barrier, it's literally a physical barrier that is being like used to prevent the to prevent the conception. That is the method of contraception. First one, that is the condom. Again, I'm sure most of you have heard about this condom. This is the tubular actually, not tabular. It's a tubular latex sheath. It's made up of some kind of polymer of latex membrane, and it's a like one of the most commonly used method nowadays, because the easy availability, easy usage, and so on. So that is like still there. You can look out for certain videos how the condoms are prepared, and how the quality control is being done. It's a interesting fact to know about, because I was watching long back some time ago that the quality control of condom is one of the very strict like check, like how we check for medicines or injections and so on. Something similar happens for the quality control of the condoms, because it's obviously like people trust the condom so much that it is going to avoid the pregnancy. But let's say the condoms are defective, so in that case the pregnancy can happen, and that is why the quality control has to be strict, so that there are no defective pieces being put in the market for the sale. So that is one of the method, that is barrier method. The second is femme shield. This is a kind of female condom. Like obviously male condom, they wear it over the penis, and the female condom, it is a kind of polyurethane pouch. Again, this is a polymer with a ring at its both the ends, and it is inserted into the vaginal structure. So I guess I have this diagram somewhere here. Yeah, so this is the male condom and this is the female condom. Now you would wonder that this ring is open on the other side, so what is the use? So it is not actually like this. It is kind of what you say, like very narrow at this end, and there is kind of block at the one of the end, which is like to the innermost side of the vagina. So that is how the female condom is ideal. uh, so where is it? Yeah, here. So that is the femme shield, or also called as female condom. And like there is no much difference in the condom and female condom, though female condom, because it has to be inserted into the vagina either using like uh, with the hands or with certain structures, then it is not really convenient to wear them. Like on contrary, the male condom, they are easier to wear and so on. So female condoms or these femme shields, they are not so commonly used. Then the third one in the barrier is the diaphragm. Now diaphragm, it's a vaginal barrier, which is a dome-shaped rubber device with a flexible steel spring enclosed at the rim. So again, I guess I have this diagram as well. Yeah, so this is the diagram. This is the rim, and at this rim there is this steel spring-like structure, which is just going to fit properly in the vaginal structure. This is kind of going to block the passage of the sperm towards the uterus, and that is the diaphragm, which is dome-shaped rubber device with a flexible steel spring enclosed in the rim and inserted into vagina and fitted over the cervix. So just at the opening of the cervix, at the end of vagina, this diaphragm is fitted. Again, this is one of the not so commonly used method. The reason being, it has to be inserted deep inside the vagina and has to be done either with the hand or through a doctor. But these are not like so commonly used. Again, both of these, they give a feeling of discomfort to the female. So that is one of the reason that they are not being commonly used. Then cervical cap. This is again similar to diaphragm, but this is just relatively smaller. It's a rubber nipper fitted over the cervix. So I guess, I hope I have, yeah, cervical cap. It's just the smaller version of this. So instead of covering the whole vaginal lining, it just covers the only the opening into the cervix, and that is what is cervical cap. Then the vault cap. This is again a similar device which is semi-spherical dome shaped, either made up of rubber or plastic with a thick rim and fitted over the vaginal vault on the cervix before the coitus and removed only 6 hours after the intercourse. Again, this is the time duration based on for how long those sperms will remain in that at one place. So if this cap wouldn't have in there, the sperms keeps on moving. But when the cap is there, the sperm stays in the vaginal tract, and because of the acidity or because of the vaginal secretions, they will be removed out of the female body. And again, the chance here having, if there are certain sperms left in the vaginal structure, they can move forward upwards towards the uterus and they can fertilize. So again, this is not a completely sure shot method, and this is true with all these cap like methods, including diaphragm, cervical cap, and the vault cap. Cervical cap, yeah, let me finish this. So cervical cap and the diaphragm, they can be kept inside the vagina or at the start of the cervical structures like for a long time. But again, because of the discomfort, female does not prefer it. And vault cap, it can be removed on like a regular basis, but that has to be after 6 hours after the intercourse. Yes.
So but it's vagina is a long tube, right?
Yeah.
And the cervix is at the end. So do you have to do a surgery to remove it every time?
No. So usually, I don't know if you have heard now, people are using. Have you heard of the term dildo?
Yes, sir.
So some women, they use that dildo to fit, which is like nothing but the artificial penis, right? They use this dildo to keep these caps in the vagina using the dildo structure. But again, like I said, it is not always that they are able to fix it, or if they go to a doctor and get this fixed, that is again an option. But again, like, it's always you have to go to a doctor for fixing it and taking it out. So both ways, it is a like a kind of tiresome process and also long. Otherwise, the male condom is the easiest option.
So you can't remove it on your own when you put it on. You have to go to a doctor.
You can remove it, but it is not so easy like we think of. And like you said, easily vagina is a little longer tube, almost 10
Yeah.
centimeter long tube, right? So in that case, it becomes very difficult to do both of these processes, either putting it or taking it out. One thing, I don't know if I should mention, but I guess I feel it would be right to mention it. Most of the males, they prefer to have sex without any contraceptives. They are not worried of the conception or female getting pregnant, but they are more worried about the having pleasure, what we call as orgasm, right? And that is the reason why most of the males, they do not prefer to wear condom, because they prefer the bareback sex. Again, the terminology might not be appropriate to use in the class, but that is the truth. And that is why then the female has to take up either certain pills or so on. But it would have been much easier if all the males use condom to avoid the pregnancy. So that is
So,
the common.
but but aren't chemical methods the best? I mean, barriers can always tear. The
Are
natural are unreliable.
They are best, they are reliable, but imagine they are hormones. They will have certain side effects on prolonged usage. That is the
Yeah.
bad point of the, okay. If it is once in a while, obviously it's good, and they are sure shot going to help. But then, like I said, because these are hormones, hormones, they are secreted in microgram or picogram quantities, and that can have really huge effect on the whole body system. So if you are continuously using it, let's say even if you have used it for few months, that will drastically have some effects on your body, especially all the reproductive process, for sure. Means I know one of my friend, again a personal story. One of my friend, he was not ready to use condom, and he asked his wife to take pills. And after a year of pills, she was not conceiving a baby at all. So it can also go to that extent. So you can imagine different females can have different effect. Probably this was the worst case scenario, but still there is a chance that this can happen. And not being able to conceive a baby is a big deal for, I guess, parents. So that it can go to that extent as well. So that is why it's like best for a male to use the male condom rather than doing any other methods of contraception. Okay, so these are the barrier methods. So we have seen the natural methods and the barrier methods of contraception. Now we'll go to the chemical methods. Now, in the chemical methods, we already know that the contraceptives, they are available in the form of cream or jelly or paste or foam or tablets or aerosol foam. I hope you know the difference between these terminologies. Do you? What is the difference between cream and jelly, or cream and paste, and foam and of course tablet,
So
aerosol?
there are different types of solutions, right? So, like liquid and
Yeah, so
solid and
they are
liquid. Yeah.
all solid as such, except the aerosol foam, or the foam in general. It's solid dispersed in gas. That is the foam. Creams, they are usually what you say, a little more fluid, and they are based on a different base, as in you add drug into some fillers as in, which make the bulk of the formulation. That is called as filler in general terms. And there the fillers are different. Jelly is more transparent, paste is more thicker compared to the cream, and it is the suspension of the solid in like semi-solid material. So that is the difference between these different things. And of course, tablet, like I said. uh, so these all these chemical methods, again, the chemical is not referring to like all the other means of chemical. This is majorly talking about these different jellies, creams, and so on. So they contain this spermicidal agent. Side usually refers to killing. So the agents or the chemicals which kills the sperm, they are called as spermicidal agent or spermicides. Includes lactic acid, citric acid, potassium permanganate, and zinc sulfate. Now, these two are acidic in nature, and the sperm has to be protected from different acid even within the vagina. Now, if you are adding more acid to the vaginal structure or the inner lining in the form of creams or so, then it is causing the vaginal epithelium more acidic. So ultimately, sperm cannot survive in there, and it will be dead, and ultimately it will be gone out. So, or it will be worn out rather. So that these are the acid. Potassium permanganate is a very strong what we call as antioxidant. So it has this redox reactions on the walls of the sperm, and then it will degrade the sperm walls, and then it will cause ultimately the killing of it. Zinc sulfate, because of the high affinity of the zinc towards the electronegative molecules on the sperm, it will cause coagulation of the sperms. Coagulation is like clumping of the sperm cells together. So ultimately they will not be able to move freely, and it will again lead to the death of the sperm. So that is how these agents would work. In some or the other way, they kill the sperm, or they what we say, they change the motility of the sperm, so that the sperm is not able to move forward or upward in the uterine tract. So the application of this spermicidal agent in the vagina before sexual intercourse will kill the ejaculated sperm, and to increase the efficiency, these are always used with the barrier methods. So you have certain barrier either in terms of cervical cap or diaphragm, or of course the male and female condoms. These are used in combination. So that is like an additional barrier or additional method to prevent the conception. Again, why do we need to do this? Why double protection? Because sometimes people have experienced that tearing of the condom because of the inappropriate methods of sexual intercourse. These barriers, they might get broken in the process of sexual intercourse, and that may lead to the pregnancy. So to avoid these things, which are again rare things, but yeah, if it happens, the pregnancy is like most likely to happen. So to avoid all of these things, so two of these methods can be used together. So that is the chemical method. uh, how much time do we have? Yeah, we can try to finish some of these at least, and then we will next class we will look at this oral contraceptives and so on. So intrauterine devices, that is another method of contraception. Now, the name itself says these are placed in the uterus, intrauterine, right? So if it has to be in uterus, obviously you cannot do it manually. It has to be done by a physician or a doctor or surgeon for that matter, right? So these are these IUDs, how they are short formed as. These are made up of either plastic or metal, or sometimes both of these in combination, and they are inserted into the uterus of a female by the doctor. These are available in different shapes, that is in loops, in spirals, in ring shaped, in bow, shields, and the copper tees. Copper tees is nothing but a T-shaped device made up of copper, and that is how they are all available in different shape. These are the ideal contraceptives for female. For males, the ideal contraceptive is condom. For females, the ideal contraceptives are the intrauterine device. Again, it is saying ideal. Ideal does not mean that it is comfortable and easier to use. These are just ideal because they are better in terms of avoiding pregnancy, and that is why they are ideal. This does not literally refer to that they are easier in terms of comfort of usage and so on. So depending on the shape of these IUDs, they are of three types. That is inert IUDs. These are made up of polyethylene impregnated with some of the material like barium sulfate. Again, this functions like your what you say, the zinc sulfate, or also the stainless steel. And example is Lipus loop. This is a marketed product, so you can Google it out if you want more information. We need not go into those details, what exactly, how exactly it is prepared and so on. But it is a loop, as you can say see from the name itself. It is in the shape of the loop, and these will work based on certain principles. So they can either impair the sperm ascent, that is the passage of the sperm from vagina to towards the fallopian tube. Quick tubal motility, causing the premature migration of the fertilized egg in the uterus. Now, due to the presence of these molecules, these will cause changes in the like the hormonal changes within the uterus. This will ultimately affect the premature release of the follicle or the egg, and the it may or may not be fertilized. If it is fertilized, they will not allow the implantation. So there are several strategies that are being used in these inert IUDs. And the third one is the spermicidal effect due to the histological and biological changes. Now imagine, these are the ionic molecules, so they are obviously going to have certain biochemical effects onto the tissues, based on that hyperpolarization, repolarization, and so on. So they are the biochemical changes which might lead to the effect which are spermicide, and also the histological, that means change in the tissue arrangement, or the structural arrangement. Let's say the endometrium is not allowed to grow completely. Again, this is related to the hormonal effects of these IUDs. Not always it is hormonal, but most of the time it is hormonal. And if it is not hormonal, then this is related to the biochemical or histological effects of these different devices. So these are in general inert IUDs. You don't have to write much in detail about this. These are just the short descriptive notes that you need to know about, even in terms of the content of the syllabus. So that is the inert IUDs. Now again, you might get confused here. Inert does not mean they are literally inert. They are inert in the sense that they do not have side effects as such. Yeah, that is what this inert terminology refers to. Then the second device that is again most commonly used, or at least it was earlier used very commonly, like let's say 1980s or even 90s period, and even earlier, this 2000 century. One of the type of intrauterine device that is being copper T. This is literally a tube, sorry, not a tube. It is T-shaped device made up of copper. Like you can imagine just the T shape made up of the copper wire, something like that. And there are different brands of it which are available, that is copper CUT, copper T, multi-load 375, and copper T 380. These are nothing but the, depending on their effectiveness and how much of the copper they release, these numbers they signify that. I don't know the details honestly, but you can again check it out if you need more information. But this is for sure that these are named based on how much copper do they release per day, or per usage, and so on. So they have ionized copper which slowly diffuses at the rate of 50 microgram per day, and the copper ion will suppress the sperm motility, again because the copper is positively charged in terms of its ion, and it can like clog or clot all the sperms together. And also due to the different polarization event within the cell, it can affect the motility of the sperm cells, and ultimately it affect the fertilizing capacity of the sperm as well. So if motility is affected, obviously the sperms do not reach, and even if at all they reach, it is affecting the fertilizing capacity because again of this polarization event like I mentioned. These devices are to be replaced every 3 to 5 years when copper release decreases. Obviously, this is like a ionic metal, right? Over the time, when all the copper has been released into the uterus or into these cavities, then at the end of certain time, it is going to have no more copper to release. So obviously, they have to be replaced, and that is where these other two models or other two methods, they are little long lasting. I guess they are somewhere 7 to 8 years long lasting compared to this copper T. That
Sir,
is why it is one of the better method for contraception. Yes.
sir, like the copper ions, where do they go?
Where will they go? As in, they will go into the cells of the uterus.
So the cells will absorb the copper. So like if you use a lot of this, won't it be bad for your body?
It is bad, but then it is at such a dose that it does not affect to that extent. Otherwise, it will. But this dose per day, that is the optimum dose that a human can tolerate.
Okay.
So based on that, that is why again these devices, because they are within the body, they also have a very good check in terms of their quality, that how much copper is released. Obviously, if it is like releasing more copper than this, it is going to show certain side effects.
No, sir, like if you keep on replacing this every 3 to 5 years, won't copper accumulate in the cells?
Yeah, it will accumulate. Oh, you are talking about the regular uses. No, it will not accumulate, because the cells, they have the ability to remove these molecules across the cell wall and ultimately through the blood circulation. It will be released through the urine at the end.
Oh, okay.
That is when, so this is the optimum dose where the copper will not accumulate at all within the cells. If you are using more than this dose, then yes, it will start accumulating. Okay, then the last method that we will see and then we will stop is the hormone releasing IUDs. These are nothing but certain again like these different shaped devices made up of plastic or metal, or again in combination, but they also have impregnated hormone release or the hormones with those material. And again, these are the brand names: Progesta Cert, progesterone based insert, that is what is Progesta Cert. And LNG20, this is again another like hormone based what you say IUD that is being used, but again not commonly used, like I said, because these are hormone based and they might have certain side effects. So these makes uterus unsuitable for implantation because of the increased level of the hormone within the uterus, and at not at the right time point, they will make the uterus unsuitable for the implantation. And obviously they will also make the cervix inhostile actually for the sperm. So that is unsuitable cervix, like for not being hostile to the sperm. This is related to the different that peristaltic moment of the cervix, and also the secretion along the cervical lining and so on. So that is how this hormonal effect will show the changes in the reproductive structure, and ultimately making the conception a difficult process for this sperm. Okay, any question here? Okay, if there are no questions, we will start with the contraceptives in the next class, so that we can finish it in one go, all these oral contraceptive pills. And here we will see a little bit into detail how these actions of the hormones affect the